Hey everyone, Bob here, KD4BMG HOA Ham. After doing this video, I didn't think that Tidradio would ever talk to me again. To my surprise, they reached out and said, Bob, would you like to take a look at the TD-H3? I like radios, I like doing reviews, why not? This is supposed to be a full-featured, low-cost, small radio. So much to my surprise that they would even speak to me, I was even more surprised when I got it in my hands. This is a little gem. Now, that's not my final conclusion. I'm still testing it out, and I'll be putting segments of that testing throughout this video. Some tests I haven't completed yet. So my initial impressions of look, appearance, form factor, feel, take the Anytone 878, throw it in a clothes dryer, run it on a cycle for an hour, shrink it down, and that's what you have here. It's a pretty awesome, tiny piece of gear with a lot of features. Well, you know what? I'm a YouTuber, and Tidradio did send this to me for my use and review. Did Tidradio do something like maybe send me a special radio that they handpicked for me? I don't know, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to identify this radio and set it apart from all others. And the way that we're going to do that is I'm going to remove the battery from the case, and I'm going to put a mark on this battery, and I'm going to put a mark on this case. And I'm going to let that dry. This is a permanent marker. I use this for not just things like this, but anytime I need to mark a piece of gear, and I find those very helpful. So let's just set this aside for a moment so that can dry. This is the radio that TID provided to me. So how am I going to make sure that I didn't get a hand-picked radio that was selected and sent to HOA Ham? Well, I'm going to buy one under my wife's maiden name, which is hidden beneath this black marker, and have it shipped to a business address that is totally unrelated to me. This radio was sent to my home address. Many manufacturers have my home address. This is a business address, and Tidradio doesn't know anything about this address, and they certainly don't know my wife's maiden name. So this gives me the opportunity to have a radio that I know was not hand-selected for a YouTuber, but rather a radio that is just like what the average ham would receive. And so I'm opening it up here today in front of you as part of my review process, so you know I have two radios that I can look at. I have two sets of batteries, I have two radios. How are we going to tell them apart? Well, this radio is supposed to be in the crystal color, which I think is unbelievably cool looking. And yes, there it is in the crystal color. So the radio that I ordered under a name that Tidradio knows nothing about will be this radio. The radio that Tid sent to me as a YouTuber is here with a white dot. And the battery that comes with this radio is here with a white dot. So now what we have is the ability for us to completely look at this radio independently, make intelligent decisions about it, not just the one that was sent to me as a YouTuber, but the one that I purchased on my own. Stick around, here we go. With all the capabilities of channel sponsor PCBWay, you may find yourself in need of some help. Fortunately, a knowledgeable customer service representative is only a click or call away. So whether you're just starting your project or near completion of your order, get your questions answered before going into production. Click on the Help Center menu above to see multiple contact options, or click on the Support Agent chat in the bottom right corner of your screen. Whatever your question, PCBWay will get you to the next step. Everybody standing at attention with a reference to the white line on my mat, starting at the largest size radio going to the smallest. The TD-H3 is just slightly taller than the UV5R. This is actually the GT5R, the clean version of the UV5R, but the Tidradio is more narrow in this direction, or maybe that's wide depending on your perspective. These are some of my favorite radios, certainly not all. I'm not sure there's enough room on the mat for all of them. Let's just take away some of these radios so that you can look at these two guys right here. Let's see if we can get them close to standing at attention on that line. I'm pointing out these two radios for a very specific reason. The TD-H3, I would call the mini version of the Anytone 878. It's not a DMR radio, that H3, but I'm just talking about size and feel. So form factor, these are both bricks. When you put the 878 in your hand, it feels like a solid piece of gear. It has some weight to it. The polymer feels quality. Yep. If you don't like the subjective feel, there's nothing I can do to help you out. It is what we do in all of our lives as consumers. We observe, we feel, we put our senses to the test to understand what we believe something would be from a quality perspective. This feels like a quality radio. Thousands of us are going to have to get our hands on it, drop it on the pavement, kick it around, turn that knob on and off thousands of times before we determine if it has the durability of an 878, because this is a standard of durability. We don't know that about this radio yet, but based on its price point of $30 to $40, depending on if there's a sale, I have no doubt, based on its size, which is really unique and cool, and its feature set, that is going to be purchased by a lot of people. Let's talk about Airband, one of the things that I require as a ham radio operator. If two radios are exactly the same in all other features, one has Airband, one doesn't, guess which one I'm buying.
15 Hotel Romeo, traffic 12 o'clock and about 8 miles westbound is a Navajo at 4,000, maintain 5,000. North maintain 515 Hotel Romeo. Number 102 Whiskey Hotel, traffic 2 o'clock and 4 miles southeastbound Challenger, leaving 5.9 for 5. He's looking for you. I'm looking for him as well. 102 Whiskey Hotel, have him on the box. Roger. American 441, maintain 6,000, contact approach 0.25. November 15 Hotel Romeo, contact approach 118.5, be good. 18.5 for final 15 Hotel Romeo. American 2710, contact Jacksonville Center 135.75, take care. So long. Southwest 1943. 7,000, Southwest 1943. Traffic, I'm behind him. Victor Whiskey Hotel, roger that, sir, thanks.
Okay, everyone, it's a UHF, VHF, HT for the ham radio bands. We're not going to talk about all the things we would expect it to be able to do, all the things that every basic radio has to do. Let's just talk about the things that are unique to this radio. Let's first of all turn it on. This is the one that I purchased myself.
Welcome.
Did you hear that? It greeted me with a nice welcome. No welcome. That's because I turned that feature off. One of the things I do like about the Tidradio menu system is as you navigate through menu options, right now I'm on step number 4, and I get out of that menu. When I go back into the menu sequence, it takes me right back to where I was. Some radios will take you back to menu option number 1, so I do like that. You will see that my screen blanked out here. That is standard setting out of the box. Here, I turn that feature off so my screen is on permanently. I do that anytime I'm reviewing a radio, so my screen doesn't blank out when you're looking at it. So let's talk about the most obvious feature about this radio that is very forward-thinking. Actually, it's not at all forward-thinking. It's just what we want as ham radio operators, and no one else wants to give it to us but Tidradio. Thank you, Tidradio. I can bring any USB-C cable to the party and program this radio through this USB-C port on the side. This is not for charging. This is for programming. You could program this with the software that you can get from the Tidradio website, which I did not download. This is chirp programmable, and I program my radio with a combination of this cable with chirp and the OD Master software that I do have installed on my iPhone. So a combination of those two is how I have used the radio to program it. Now, as far as OD Master goes, I have used a dummy email address, or I should say an email address that I created just to log into OD Master so I can keep all of my information private. But let's talk about OD Master for just 1 second. Let's see if I can actually find OD Master. Here we go. Here's OD Master. One of the most intriguing and compelling things about OD Master and the TD-H3 and the TD-H8 is the ability to, when you're traveling, to arrive where you're traveling, get into the OD Master app on either Android or Apple, Download local repeaters and by Bluetooth, send it to your radio. This is absolutely one of the most compelling features of the radio from TID, and who else is doing this for us? So I think if you're wondering whether or not the TID radios have value, you need to ask yourself, do I travel frequently? Maybe it's not always to the same place. If you traveled frequently to the same place, for $30 to $40, you can have multiple radios, one program for your local frequencies, one program for where you travel. If you travel to different places all the time, you can take your H3 with you, use ODMaster, and you can just download local repeaters when you get there and via Bluetooth send them on over to the radio that you have in your hand or in your holster. Another unique feature about this radio is it can be 3-in-1, meaning you can go through a menu sequence where you can turn this into a ham radio operating on the ham bands. You can turn this into a GMRS radio operating on the GMRS bands, or you can turn this into an open radio that will do both GMRS and ham radio. I haven't really dug into the legality of that, and I'm not recommending you do that. I'm not demonstrating how to do that. Plenty of others have. It's incredibly simple. It's just something I want you to be aware of. In addition to it being the ability or having the ability to do dual watch, it does have two different separate PTTs, so one for the top band and one for the bottom band. And then we have a multi-function button here. My multi-function button, when you short press, you'll get a flashlight. I'll show you that in a second. When you long press, you get taken into the NOAA weather stations. And I receive NOAA Weather 1 here. So once you're in, you navigate to your local station. And with the inside reception and my stubby antenna, that's not too bad. Outside, it's absolutely phenomenal as far as reception. Stock, I believe we come with FM radio, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, FM radio. Next up, we're going to do a power test, and then we'll do what everyone's waiting for. You'll see me answer the question, is this radio clean? Any spurious emissions? I'll answer that for you. With our dummy load attached, let's get our SureCom power meter powered up and get the radio turned on. We're going to head over to 2 meters first and check our power at high. We come in at 4.8 watts. 4.8. Let's go ahead and navigate down to low power and see where we are. Quick change of the menu function, and we're at 1.41 watts out. We're going to go ahead and change our power setting back up to high as we head on over to 70 centimeters, and we'll test high and low. And 432 100, full power high, we're at 5.2. All right, we've got some fluctuation. Let's go ahead and do that a second time. And we finally settle in at about 4.9. Navigate over to low power. We'll do the same test. And here we are. Well, messing with that menu. Takes a little while to get used to the menu. It is intuitive. And here we are at 0.225. 0.225. Let's test that again just to be sure we got it right. Yep, 0.225. And I will say, others have found this to be the case on their radios as well. So when I posed the question as to whether or not Tidradio sent me a special hand-picked radio, I did that because I didn't see the little tab you normally have on your screen protector. I've already removed the screen protector on the radio I bought. As I've fumbled around with the radio over the last couple of weeks, I did finally find that there is a screen protector there. And so my whole logic behind, or my thought behind, perhaps I got a hand-picked radio, that's dispelled. I don't believe it all. I got a hand-picked radio. I think they went to the pile of stock and they shipped me this radio. I do want to mention one very important fact. The charger base itself does come with a USB-C connector. And although I've talked about this USB-C on the side of the radio for programming with any USB-C cable, mind you, the battery itself has a USB-C adapter on the bottom, and you can charge it while it's attached to the radio, or hey, take it off of the radio, really doesn't matter. And when you plug in your USB-C port, you're going to see the light come to life, and apparently my battery is fully charged. And you do note that I'm charging from an independent battery backup power pack. So you don't have to have this in the charging cradle. If you're mobile, you can have one of your normal standard USB-A power packs with you and charge your Tidradio device. Okay, everyone, hold on. Don't do anything. Your screen didn't blank out. That's me. I turned the room dark so we could see what the flashlight looks on this. We always make fun of flashlights on our HTs, but let me say the flashlight on this is no joke. This torch is bright. I'm in a 6x8 room, approximately 6x8 feet, and the lights are off completely, and you can see I can very easily read something as well as light up what I need to see where I'm going. Yep, there's a strobe feature, and oh, by the way, that screen just looks awesome all by itself. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Drum roll, please, is the TD-H3 clean. Remember, we need to be 40 dB lower than the fundamental, which does appear we're going to pass. It looks like, well, 52 to 56, so we are clear on that requirement. And then we also need to be negative 16.02 dBm. That's that bottom blue or purple line. And it doesn't look like we're going to pass that. So here we are. The radio sent to me by Tidradio is a fail. What are we going to do with that? We're going to grab the radio that I purchased on my own. That Tidradio had no clue I was purchasing it, and just see how this stacks up to the one that was provided directly to me. Same frequency, 146.520, same power, high, same process. We need to be 40 dBm below the fundamental. And again, it looks like the 4 additional markers that we have are going to pass. Looks like we're as high as 57 and as low as 52, 51. All right, so we are good there. We pass on that requirement, but we still do not pass on the negative 16.02 requirement. Next up, let's hook up our Anytone 878, one of many radios I could have put here on the Tiny SA Ultra just to demonstrate to you what a clean radio looks like. And before you know it, there will not be any additional markers here because the Anytone 878 is incredibly clean, demonstrating that indeed we can get a fantastic clean radio out of China. So here we are. No additional markers. One fundamental. That's what we want to see when we test our radios. Listen, there is no mistaking the effort that Tidradio put into this. So many features in such a tiny little package. They deserve another shot. That's what I'm going to give them. This radio was provided to me as a YouTuber free of charge for my testing and review, and so I could share it with you. It was shipped from either their China manufacturer or their Chinese distribution center. This radio I purchased directly from the Tidradio website, and again, it was shipped to me directly from China. Both of these have not passed the spurious emissions test. It is not a missed it by this much test. I mean, it did miss it by just a tiny bit, but it's a pass or fail test. So I went and I purchased another Tidradio TD-H3 from Amazon here in the USA, and this was just recently delivered, and that's going to be this video right here that you should go and watch and see whether it's the third time's the charm or it's strike 3 and you're out. Final thoughts, a few people have mentioned that they've had trouble charging their unit, meaning when they put it in the cradle, it doesn't ever seem to reach full charge, and that's a concern with the BMS in the battery itself. Some others have had some battery issues. Other than the spurious emissions, I really haven't heard too many issues with the radio itself, so perhaps this is just a battery issue that's isolated and Tidradio needs to address that. We don't know what the long-term performance of this radio is going to be yet, but I'm telling you right now, it is feature-packed and inexpensive, and that's why we like manufacturers in China that do things like that. Some of you won't buy radios like this, you won't support it. Others of us go, wow, I like it because it provides to me an option that's really inexpensive, that is feature-packed. And if Tidradio does with the H3 what they did with the H8, they'll address these minor issues that we've discovered so far and fix them. And hopefully we don't find any major issues. But again, not enough of us have this radio to determine that. We will at this price and with this feature set. More importantly, they respond quickly, meaning they bring features to bear that no one even knew we wanted. Or maybe in our dreams, we thought about it, but we were afraid to ask some of the manufacturers that are much larger and much more well-known because, well, they just don't listen to us or they take forever to get anything done. Tidradio responded with cool features. They did it quickly. It's intriguing. Let's see if they can fix those spurious emissions. Let's see if they can get through those battery issues. If so, this is going to be a phenomenal long-term radio. Thanks, Tidradio. Hope you all found this useful, friends. Talk to you soon. 73.